Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. This is Shyam Kaggod here, taking up the Hindu news analysis dated 28th September 2025. Now, before I start the discussion, please do let me know that I'm audible and visible for all of you. Please do let me know in the chat section. Am I audible and visible for all of you? Done. Thanks a lot. So let's start the discussion. In today's analysis, I've taken a total of 11 articles. 9 of them are from the Hindu newspaper, Delhi edition, and 2 of them are from Indian Express. This has been done in order to ensure that the discussion will be comprehensive and you'll be able to take care of all of your current affairs requirements to ace the upcoming civil services examination. If you're liking this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. And if you're yet to join our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Now, before I take up the first set of articles, a very important announcement. If you're somebody who is aiming to ace the examination, Civil Services Examination 26 and 27, our courses are available at a lowest price of 19,999 right now. I've been told that the offer based on the demand from the student side has been extended up to 30th September 2025. And once you enroll into our courses, you will get access to the live sessions as well as recorded sessions, be it in English medium, Hindi medium, or for that matter, English medium. You'll get access to the mentorship services, reading material, the prelims, as well as mains test series. Those who are interested in enrolling into our courses, use the code IS English as well. And if you're interested, do check out the details by clicking on the link provided in the description below. Now, let's start the discussion. The first two articles I've taken are one, the Trump's H1B directive, and the second one is the higher bill which has been proposed in the US Congress now. Let me basically club both of the topics in one discussion rather than having a separate discussion. In recent times, what has been happening? In the context of international trade, or to be more precise here, the bilateral trade that is between India and USA, there are multiple aspects which are being discussed. It all started with the new president of USA announcing that he'll be imposing tariffs on multiple countries, that is, a trading partners. And one such trading partner has been India, and India has been imposed with different types of tariffs under the current regime or the current administration of the USA. Some of the exports are attracting 50% tariff, that is 25% tariff as usual that was announced, and 25% the penal tariffs because India is purchasing crude from Russia. So some of these particular exports which are going to USA are attracting a 50% tariff right now. In addition to this, the government or the administration very recently has announced new fees which is applicable, or the new charges which are applicable on the H1B visas. On the H1B visas which are given to, right, let's say certain experts who will enter into USA, who are hired by the companies of USA, the amount of charges that they will have to pay has been increased to around $1 lakh. $1 lakh. That's a very, very high number compared to currently the existing number of 3,000 to $5,000. This is one very important announcement. Third one is there is a bill which is pending in the Congress, or which has been introduced in the US Congress, that is basically the higher bill. Higher bill. What is the concept of a higher bill? Under higher bill, the extension I write first here, halting halting international relocation of employment. International relocation of employment. And I want to make this particular discussion a bit more comprehensive. For that, let me add one more very important aspect here. That is, basically, a new bill has been introduced in the Congress, which is going to target the shrimp exports from India. I'm pretty sure you must have heard of this in recent times. That is, there is a bill which has been introduced again in the Congress of USA, which will target the shrimp exports from India. Now, what are the important points associated with all of these particular, right? Let's say the recent measures or the initiatives. Let's understand what is the impact, what can be done in the coming days, and finally, what should be the way forward adopted by India. If you can understand all these aspects, more than sufficient for UPSC requirements. Now, basically, what is the argument of government of USA there regarding the H-1B visas? The H-1B visas are specifically provided for the STEM experts. The STEM experts. What do you mean by STEM here? STEM basically stands for science, technology, engineering, and medicine. Engineering, medicine. Right? So, STEM experts basically are those the experts, or let's say certain individuals who are coming from different countries entering into USA and are being employed by different companies in USA. It could be a company such as a TCS, which is an Indian company using H1B visas. It could be Amazon company. It could be, right, Tesla company. So different companies, the multinational corporations have been applying for the visas, that is H1B visas, and hiring the global talent. Most of the H1B visas, that is more than 70% of the H1B visas last year which were issued, basically went to the experts, or let's say the individuals who were sent from India. That is, these were hired from India. Now, what is the criticism of the US government? Why are they targeting this H1B visa system as such? And by the way, please understand, this is not the first time that there is a call for revamping the system of H1B. This particular discussion associated with restructuring the H1B visa system has been there in the discussion for multiple years now. But what has the government of USA announced now? They have announced simply that whenever you apply for an H1B visa, a company will hire you. You will apply for a H1B visa. Now the company has to pay $1 lakh, $1 lakh to the government of USA. And the president of USA, while signing this particular proposal, stated that the government of USA will be collecting these, right, let's say dollars, and will be using to reduce the debt of the US government. And by the way, the debt of the US government is very, very high, more than $30 trillion rupees, by the way. Right? So this was the argument. But what is the background behind this? The government of USA simply says the H1B visa has been abused. The system of H1B visas have been abused. What is the abusing aspect here? The argument of the government here is the multinational enterprises such as, let's say, Wipro, the TCS company, Amazon company, Infosys, etc. What they're doing is when they're operating in USA, instead of hiring the US locals or the citizens of USA and pay them salaries, they are simply bringing in the foreign nationals or the individuals from other countries such as India at a cheaper labor cost. That is, they will offer the Indians a lower salary and we will take up this particular job. They will apply for H1B visa. We will go to USA and work in the USA market. And this will be replacing the labor, or let's say this will be used to replace the labor or the citizens of USA. This has been the criticism that has been leveled against the abuse of the H1B system. And the government of USA now says, I want to restructure this. I want to penalize the companies. If they want to bring in the labor from other countries, let them bring in. But they will have to pay a heavy price for this. But I hope you understand this. Initially, when the announcement was done, different announcements are basically the statements which were given were different. And over a period of time, more and more clarification has been provided. Initially, they said any H1B visa holder will be attracting this kind of a fees. And that led to a lot of confusion. You must have seen different videos on YouTube where, right, let's say passengers from a plane were getting down because they were worried about this kind of an announcement. Different companies, right, in USA sent a directive to all the employees who were there outside the country of USA to come back immediately, etc. But later they clarified that no, this will be applicable only for the new applications, not to the existing application. And initially it was said it has to be paid annually. Now it is being said it has to be paid when for the first time the application is done. But what is the important point here? It is going to have a huge impact on the sector, such as the service sector in India. The reason is the service sector accounts for more than 50 percentage of GDP. More than 50 percentage of GDP. And when you look at the overall service sector and you decipher how much is the export of the services which are done from India, you will realize that most of these exports or the substantial part of these exports are in the form of IT and ITES companies, information technology and information technology enabled services. And 50 to 60% of the revenues which are generated by these companies is because of USA clients. Now, if the government of USA will impose these kind of restrictions in the form of H1B visa and in the form of higher bill, I'll club the discussion here as well. What is the higher bill proposing? The higher bill basically says that if a American company will outsource any kind of a service, simple, if it will outsource any kind of a service, in that particular case, the company will attract a 25% tax. They will have to pay 25% tax. That is, let's say an American company will outsource a service to Indian company, and for that they will have to pay charges. Whatever amount is paid, that will attract 25% tax. And mind you, these particular taxes which are paid, the government of USA now, according to the bill, by the way, it is yet to be passed. Once it is passed, will be sent to the president. Once the president gives the sign or the assent, will come into implementation. It is yet to receive any kind of a assent as of now. So the argument is these taxes which are paid will not be given any kind of a tax deduction as well. That is, the companies will not be able to claim tax deduction. As a result of these 25% taxes plus the existing taxes, the overall tax liability on these companies will be more than 50%. It will be more than 50%. And what do you think will be the impact of these kind of measures or the protectionist policies which are undertaken by the government of USA? It will directly have an impact on the outsourcing countries. That is, for example, India. From India, a lot of these services are exported. Like I said earlier, the companies which are exporting the services will be hampered by high H1B visas or the fees associated with the H1B visas, as well as the taxes which have been proposed under the higher bill. But having said so, please understand there are certain aspects which even the government of USA needs to consider here. They are only looking at one aspect, that is they want to basically promote the argument that the government is doing sufficient to promote employment generation. And if you look at it, the government of USA is in already trouble there. The trouble in the sense the employment jobs are not encouraging. They were able to create hardly around 20,000 jobs last month there, when generally they used to create more than 1 lakh jobs a month. The inflation rate has been increasing. There are other domestic issues which are faced by the president there. So just to basically change the narration there, the government is going for these kind of policies, and as such, this is not a surprise, but the scale of it is a surprise. This is not a surprise because since the campaign for the presidential elections began there, the current president has been talking about this. That is, make America great again. Right, so these are certain very important aspects. Now coming to the idea of a, right, let's say the bill which has been introduced to target shrimp exports from India. What is the argument of USA there? The argument of USA is the shrimp exports from India are underpriced. They are underpriced. Underpriced in the sense the price at which the shrimp is sold in India. And as such, please understand, India is one of the largest producer of shrimp, no doubt. But it doesn't consume lot of the production of shrimp that is done in India. Most of it is exported to the global market, including USA. USA is a major market for us in terms of shrimp exports. Now the allegation there is India's exports are being done, but the pricing is less than at what price these are sold in India. Their argument is we are dumping shrimp. The technical term is called as a dumping. So they are simply saying we are dumping the shrimp in the American market. So there is a proposal which has been introduced in the Congress which targets the shrimp exports and proposes anti-dumping duty anti-dumping duty on these particular shrimp exports. Now the problem is, if this bill is passed and the president will give the assent and is implemented, it will again hamper the shrimp exports from India. And because I'm saying, or because the fact is that USA is the major market for us, our exports of shrimp would be affected. So, what is the solution to all of these particular problems then? Simple. One is promote domestic consumption. Promote domestic consumption. You need to take reforms in the domestic market as well as, right, in order to promote exports to the international market. So, in the domestic market, what kind of reforms? Promote domestic consumption. In fact, I'm pretty sure you must have heard of this particular term now. The Prime Minister is asking for boycott. Have you heard of this? Boycott, not boycott. Boycott. That is basically consume more and more goods and services which are manufactured in India rather than importing. Right? Basically, the campaign Swadeshi. The Prime Minister is promoting the argument of Swadeshi. That is, purchase the goods and services which are manufactured in India. Doesn't matter who has produced it. Whether it is an Indian company or a foreign company, doesn't matter. Have you heard of that particular famous statement of the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi? पैसा किसी का भी हो, पसीना अपना होना चाहिए. Correct? Have you heard of this? That is, doesn't matter whether a foreign company has invested in India or a Indian company has invested in India. Who is producing it doesn't matter. Whose capital it is doesn't matter. As long as it is produced in India. That is Swadeshi campaign which is being run or which is being promoted by the government now. Second, we need to promote, right, let's say manufacturing sector in India. No doubt regarding this, this has to be there in your answer. You need to promote manufacturing in addition to investment in research and development. You will have to do this. Apart from this, also what you need to do is ensure there is a diversification. Ensure there is a diversification. Diversification in terms of what? In terms of exports that you do. Because right now, India majorly exports low value goods. Low value goods. Right? Before you ask me, sir, what is a low value good? Textile. In other countries, their target is exporting high value goods. For example, critical mineral, artificial intelligence, etc. So, diversification of the kind of goods and services that we do, yes, required. Diversification in terms of markets where we export. Diversification of markets where we export. What do you mean by markets where we export? Rather than majorly relying only on one country, is USA. Why don't we diversify our export? For example, in the context of shrimp, apart from USA, is there any other market where we can diversify and ensure revenues of the exporters are protected? Yes, European Union market is there. Or for that matter, Chinese market is there, which is also one of the major consumers of shrimp, etc. So when you diversify the markets where you are exporting, even if one country will take a call to restrict your exports, major impact will not be felt because you are diversifying. You are not reliant only on one country's market. So these are some of the recommendations that you will have to write if at all a question is asked associated with this. So everybody is okay regarding the two articles that I've discussed. So please take up a question for answer writing practice now. The rise of protectionism in USA has implications for the export-led growth strategy for India. Elaborate and also recommend way forward. 250 words, a 15 marker question. And if somebody is wondering, sir, where will I get this particular PPT that you're using? I want to read the articles after the session is over, etc. The link for the PPT, basically there is a link. In the description of the video, there is a link. Indian Economy Repository link. After the session is over, the PPT will be uploaded in a drive and the link of the drive is there in the page, the link for which is given to you. It is accessible to everyone. Whatever sessions I take on YouTube, the PPT of those sessions will be uploaded on the drive. And second very important point, I know a lot of you are preparing for Civil Services 2026. And one difficult subject for you will be Indian economy. You may not agree to this right now, but you know in your heart of the heart that Indian economy, you feel intimidated by this. You are afraid of this. You feel it is very difficult. If you're one of them, there is an opportunity for you. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, as well as on Wednesday. The 3 days, the platinum sessions for you, starting 7 p.m. in the evening, are absolutely available free of cost. You do not have to pay anything for that. In these particular 3 days, I'll be discussing a lot of important concepts associated with Indian economy. If you wish to join those particular classes, all you need to do is use the link provided in the description of the video, register for these particular classes. And if you're somebody who will say, sir, economy is fine for me, science and technology is difficult, then in the morning, we are having science and technology classes. The registration link is again there in the description. Use the opportunity. And if you are of the third category, sir, both of them are difficult, you can register for both of these particular sessions. Done? Now, let me go forward. Next article associated with digital warfare. That is, the article discusses how Israel used Azure to monitor Palestinians. In recent times, there has been a lot of criticism, again, lot of criticism associated with the kind of, let's say, the methods, the kind of, right, let's say, warfare that has been conducted by Israel in the conflict. Now, whether you're on one side or the other side or you're a fence sitter, doesn't matter. Understand what is there in the article, by the way. The article basically says there is a new front that has been used by Israel in the latest warfare. Gone are the days when, right, the traditional warfare used to be conducted. It is the right, let's say, decade where most of the warfare that has been conducted is by using digital technologies. In recent times, you must have seen during the, right, let's say, conflicts where the drones are being used, cyber attacks are being conducted. So rather than using a traditional method of, right, having a war, now this is the era where digital warfare has taken prominence. Now, in that particular context, what has been discussed here? The argument is very simple, how technology can be used to conduct warfare, how multinational enterprises can be coerced without being, right, let's say, intentionally being participant, how they can be coerced into participating into a warfare. Now, what is the issue here? Issue is very simple. The, right, let's say, the communication systems which are developed in the Palestine region, communication systems which have been developed in that particular region have been developed by Israel. It has been developed by Israel. And the issue here is that Israel has been using this communication, right, let's say, infrastructure that has been developed, which is being used by the Palestinians to communicate with each other. They have been using this for conducting surveillance. Simple. For conducting surveillance. But the problem until now that they faced was the amount of data they were able to collect. They did not have sufficient storage capacity. Generally, what happens, you must have seen in, right, let's say, spy movies or spy thrillers. You are communicating with, let's say, another person. The government will basically listen to you. The data, or let's say the call record, will be generated. Now there has to be deciphering of the call record. That is what you have spoken, right? It has to be converted into a text and then it has to be deciphered. So the amount of call records that were collected, right, the surveillance that was conducted by the Israeli intelligence unit, they faced a problem of having storage capacity for that. So what did they do? They basically had a tie-up. Right? They basically had a tie-up with Microsoft. The AI cloud computing services of Microsoft were used. And because the AI services or the cloud computing services of Microsoft, that is no, the name of the cloud computing services Azure, they used this. Now, whatever was the problem earlier, that is the storage capacity was the problem. Now, because of the cloud computing services that were available for the Israeli intelligence agencies, that was no more a problem. They had unlimited accessibility to store these particular phone records or the call records of Palestinians. And not just this, now they started using the AI tools, which are part of the package provided by the Microsoft. As a part of the package which was provided by the Microsoft, they started using the AI tools to easily decipher, convert the call records into text messages, and then use the AI tools to basically monitor what is being communicated between the people. So this is how essentially what has been done by Israelis. They have used the technology of a multinational enterprise to basically conduct a phone tapping in a layman terminology, or right, let's say conduct mass surveillance. Earlier they were not able to do that. Now they have been able to conduct a mass surveillance of the people residing in the Palestine region. Right? That is the that has actually led to criticism. Now, some of you might be thinking, sir, why did Microsoft agree to all of it? Please understand, Microsoft is a multinational enterprise. And these multinational enterprises generally are focused on branding exercises. They are more worried about their bottom line. Right? A lot of times they are not worried so much about the implications of their agreements like this. They are only worried about how to fatten their pockets. So in this particular area, what they felt was Microsoft assumed that when we have a tie-up with the military agency like this, it will promote my branding. It will boost the image of this particular tool to be used in the global market. So that was the reason why Microsoft agreed to enter into a tie-up, but later realized the tools, the AI, right, the cloud computing services have been used for these kind of surveillance measures. And now Microsoft has announced that these services which were made available to Israeli intelligence services have been stopped, have been cut. But to be very fair here, to be very frank here, it's not that just Microsoft will cut the access and Israel will not be having any kind of access to other tools. Israeli services have entered into similar kind of agreements with other companies as well. Right? So that is basically the discussion that has happened in this particular context. Done? Everybody is okay with the discussion so far? Please do let me know. Can we go forward to the next article? Great. Let's go to the next article. United Nations needs reforms. Right? The UN gridlocked needs reforms, says Jai Shankar at General Assembly. In the earlier discussion also I mentioned this, that is United Nations is completing 80 years now. UN is going to complete 80 years. UN at 80. Right? So basically what should have been let's say an event for celebration of existence of this kind of a multinational or multi-global let's say agency, it has actually led to a lot of debate, criticism of United Nations. It has led to a lot of criticism. I don't know how many of you have heard of right Mr. Donald Trump's speech at the United Nations General Assembly. In fact, he was given the time period of 15 minutes to deliver the speech. He went on talking, he went on rambling from one topic to another topic, relevant, irrelevant. He took more than 1 hour. But in that particular, right, let's say the speech that was given, one theme which was common amongst multiple speakers was United Nations is losing relevance, by the way. United Nations is losing relevance in the current situation. It has completed 80 years, yes, but at the same point of time, it is not able to meet the challenges that it is facing right now. Right? That is one of the points that was mentioned by External Affairs Minister of India, Mr. S. Jaishankar, during the speech to UNGA. Now, let's say suddenly UPSC will ask you this kind of a question. Please have a look at the question here. While the United Nations remains indispensable in peacekeeping and humanitarian aid, critics argue it has failed to adapt to 21st century challenges. Examine the issues faced and way forward. Right? Recommend way forward. A 250 word question. Right? Or let's say the answer requires to be written in 250 words. Now, what are the challenges that the United Nations faces? You should be aware of all of this. These are very niche topics. Might be searching for this in the book, generally you will not get it. You must be aware. What are the different challenges that the United Nations is facing right now? The biggest issue, right, or the problem that the United Nations is facing right now is the financing issue. It is a financing issue. Why? United Nation is the main body. United Nation also has multiple other agencies under it. They have multiple other agencies. Now, regarding United Nations, right, let's say the operations, the countries are supposed to provide funding. And that is mentioned, in fact, under Article 17.2. Please remember this. Under Article 17.2 of the United Nations Charter, it says that there is an unambiguous legal duty, that is the expenses of the organization shall be borne by the members, of United Nations. How many member countries are there of United Nations? Who knows the right answer? Please do let me know. I'm looking at the chat section, by the way. Who knows the right answer? How many member countries are there under United Nations? Anybody? 194, 194, 193, 193 member countries. 193 member countries. Other right organizations are there. 193 member countries. So there are 190 plus member countries under United Nations. Now please understand, every country has to make certain contribution, and there's a formula for it. What is the formula? It simply says according to the capacity of the country. According to the capacity of the country, there is a formula which will consider the national income, etc. And the member countries will have to contribute. The concern has been that countries such as USA, it has delayed the contribution. China has delayed the contribution. And because there is a delay in the contribution, right, this is affecting the operations of, right, the United Nations. And there is also one more concern. There are other bodies under United Nations, WHO. The government of USA has announced that it is going to withdraw from the World Health Organization. And when a country, largest economy, withdraws from the United Nations, or let's say specifically the WHO, the financing of that will be affected. So the biggest, right, let's say the challenge that is faced by the United Nations right now is basically the delay in contributions, or in some of the agencies of United Nations, members threatening to withdraw. And when they withdraw, the financing will be affected. Right? So this is one problem. And if you're wondering, sir, if the funding is not there, what is the implication then? Implication is simple. United Nations has to basically have funds for peacekeeping missions. It has to have funds for providing humanitarian aid in different countries, etc. So funds not there, the operations of the United Nations would be affected. In fact, forget about operations. Now there's a concern that United Nations has to cut down the number of staff that they are having. The number of people that have been hired by United Nations might have to be cut down because they do not have sufficient amount of funds to pay for all of these workers. Right? So one of the biggest challenges right now is financing issue. Second biggest challenge is the criticism of Security Council. Security Council, right? Because please understand this, when the United Nations was established, we decided there has to be a permanent council, permanent Security Council, the permanent five that has been decided. And in addition to that, there is right, another Security Council of 10 more members, temporary. Right? So argument is this particular composition of permanent five members who enjoy veto powers. There is no change in the composition. What was the situation of the globe, that is different continents, different countries back in 1940s, is not the same as today. So with the change in the time period, don't you think the representation also has to be changed? The power also has to be changed. But that particular change has not been done in the United Nations. In fact, when Mr. Joe Biden was there as the president of USA, this was one of the discussion that was taking place. It was one of the discussions. But after the administration changed, Mr. Donald Trump became the president of USA. There has been no discussion associated with this. Current administration simply is in favor of whatever is the composition of permanent five members. And if you're wondering what is the right importance of this, multiple decisions or the proposals which have to go through the permanent five, if they use the veto power, and that has been used multiple times by now, if they keep on using veto powers, that the decisions will not be taken. You have more than 190 countries representing in the United Nations, five countries, and out of five countries, let's say China or let's say USA will cast a veto, and the whole process will come to a standstill. India has been frustrated by this particular concept of veto power in multiple instances. When India wanted to get a particular person or an organization listed as a terrorist organization under United Nations, when China has used its veto power to basically stall the process. So Security Council revamping, restructuring has to be done. There is no option. National interests are trumping the global cooperation. This is very much true. A lot of times, the countries in the permanent five, that is the Security Council, will vote in order to protect their own national interest rather than being worried about global cooperation. United Nation was set up on the backside or the hindsight of Second World War. And so the argument is why the national interest has become superior compared to global peace, global cooperation, which has been given an inferior status, where the different countries are using this, that is their bilateral relations or their own interest, protecting their own interest. That has been the reason to veto various decisions. And finally, the failure of United Nations on multiple fronts, such as the raging humanitarian crisis in multiple countries in Africa. Must have seen, very often in the newspapers, different photos of the children who are facing hunger, not only in African countries, even in Gaza, etc. Or for that matter, the failure of United Nations to come to any decision regarding, let's say, the Palestine issue, failure of United Nations to take any decision regarding Russia-Ukraine war. All of these basically point to the fact that United Nations over a period of time has not been very proactive, has not been relevant, has not been able to address the challenges of the 21st century. And that is the precise reason there is a talk that, or there's a criticism that United Nations is losing relevance today. It is not more any relevant, it is irrelevant right now. And it has to make or undergo certain reforms to meet the challenges of the current time. Right? So, this is the broad discussion. Again, I'm saying this is a broad discussion. The speech of the External Affairs Minister was much more narrow in the sense that it was more oriented towards India's interest, in addition to the call for the United Nations reforms. Right? So, I've discussed a broad aspect associated with the United Nations. Be aware of this. Done? Now, let me go forward. There is a discussion. Okay, before I go forward, everybody is okay with the discussion so far? Please do let me know in the chat section. Can I move on to the next article? BSNL Swadeshi 4G stack. Please do let me know. Great. Thanks a lot. So what is the discussion of BSNL Swadeshi stack? And by the way, BSNL is celebrating its silver jubilee. Be aware of that. BSNL is celebrating its silver jubilee. Question can be asked on BSNL in the preliminary examination. Now, what is the discussion here? Point number one, there's a term called as stack. Very often you'll come across the term stack in the context of, let's say, agri stack, India stack. Now there is one more, 4G stack. You'll be wondering, sir, what is this 4G stack? Right? And moreover, what is the meaning of the stack? Stack means basically a collection. Remember this. Stack means basically a collection. Let me prove it to you. I'm pretty sure all of you, or let's say most of you, are sitting on your study table. Please see on the left side or the right side of the study table, you would have arranged books one over the other. Correct? Books. which right only once in a month you will take, dust them, keep it on the other side. Again, you will basically take it after one more month, dust it, keep it on the other side. And you will do it especially when your father is around you, just to show that you are studying all the books. You are reading all the books, by the way. So the arrangement one over the other is called as a stack. It is called as a stack. Now, what do you mean by 4G stack here? 4G stack basically means the different hardware and the software that is required for communications, that is required for let's say data transfer, and that is required for basically accessibility for internet. Is everyone okay with the term 4G stack? Please do let me know. I'll repeat it again. What is the meaning of 4G stack? The hardware plus the software. The hardware plus the software that is required for you to ensure there is a mobile connectivity, that is internet connectivity is there, data transfer happens, and you are able to basically communicate with each other. That is called as a 4G stack. And it is not just a 4G stack. Remember the complete terminology now. Look at the complete terminology. Swadeshi 4G stack. Swadeshi 4G stack means what? This kind of a hardware plus a software that is required for communication, data transfer, etc. It has been developed indigenously. That is, it has been developed in the domestic market. By whom? By BSNL. By BSNL. And with this, India becomes part of very few countries around the world who have their own 4G stack. India is one of the very few countries around the world now. What are the other countries? Please make a note of this as well. The other countries which have developed a 4G stack are Denmark, Sweden, South Korea, and China. China, however you want to pronounce. Don't worry about the pronunciation. Right? So these are the very few countries which have developed their own 4G stack. Now, India is one of the right members within this particular group of countries. Done? What is the importance of this? Some of you might be wondering what is the importance. And moreover, if you're reading newspaper, I know you would miss this particular article. I know this. You will miss this article. That's the reason I've taken this bigger article from Indian Express. What is the importance? Let me tell you the basic idea. The government of India, rather than being import dependent means what? Rather than importing, let's say, the tower equipments from other countries. And when I say other countries, it should not be surprising to you. Basically, we imported from China. We imported from China. The concern was, if I import from China, one, my import dependence will be higher. Second, what if these kind of equipments or the technology that I'm importing are rigged in such a way, are programmed in such a way that they will start accumulating the data from India and start sharing that with Chinese authorities? That is always a concern. Safety and security. That is the national security issue. So BSNL wanted to basically upgrade from 2G to 3G, from 3G to 4G. But for that, you require this kind of a equipment. The government of India during the period of pandemic announced the concept of Atmanirbharta. And the improved version or the enhanced version now is basically the call to Swadeshi. So the government basically said, let's not procure, let's not start importing the equipment. Why not promote development of this kind of a equipment in the domestic market? And that has been exactly done by the BSNL with multiple other agencies as well as the private sector companies. Now they have developed the technology, that is, let's say, the mobile towers, which will be right, which are manufactured in India, which are using the software plus the hardware components which are produced in India itself. And not only this, the government also says the mobile towers which will be installed under this initiative, these will also have the capacity to harness solar energy. That is, they will be right. They'll be fitted with the equipments where the sunlight will be converted, captured, and converted into solar energy. So these will be the spots or the centers of the green telecom equipments as well. So these are certain very important points. In association with this, there is one more very important terminology that was mentioned, not in these newspapers, but somewhere else. That is, they mentioned a nidhi called as, or a fund called as Digital Bharat Nidhi, DBN, Digital Bharat Nidhi. What is this Digital Bharat Nidhi? Please listen to me very carefully. Earlier, the government of India, under the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885, introduced a fund called as USOF, Universal Service Obligation Fund. Let me repeat this: Universal Service Obligation Fund. Under USOF, the telecom companies were supposed to contribute certain amount of fees. Right now it is 5%. The 5% as a fees was imposed. Universal Services, right? Levy. Remember the name also. Universal Services Levy. Government would collect it and use it for the development of telecom infrastructure. The government of India, under the Telegraph Act of 2023, under the Act of 2023, basically withdrew Universal Service Obligation Fund and introduced a new fund, a Digital Bharat Nidhi, DBN. And the DBN, right, basically is more focused on the rural parts as well as underserviced urban areas as well. Whereas earlier USOF was more focused only on the rural parts of India. Anyways, so the Digital Bharat Nidhi, right, model has been implemented. 5% of and the adjusted gross revenues of the telecom companies will be collected as a levy. Now the fund initially will go into Consolidated Fund of India. From there, it will be transferred into this particular fund, and now the funds will be utilized for the development of telecom infrastructure. In fact, more than 20,000, right, the mobile towers which have been installed under this initiative, 4G saturation initiative, basically has been done by using the funds from the Digital Bharat Nidhi. Done. So these are certain very important points associated with the 4G Swadeshi BSNL stack. Be aware of all of this, important for the prelims as well as mains examination. Now, please solve the question as soon as possible. Consider the following statements regarding the DBN. It replaces the Universal Services Obligation Fund. The funds under this lapse at the end of the financial year. It was established through Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. How many of the above three statements are true? Do let me know in the chat section very quickly. Please do let me know in the chat section very quickly. Mystery says B. Devendra Kumai says A. Anushka Singh says only two. My dear, that is not the option. But anyways, only two means you mean to say option A. A, B, 2A. Okay, done. Let's start. It replaces the Universal Service Obligation Fund. Absolutely correct. It is true, by the way, because I've told it already. The funds under this lapse at the end of the financial year. Is it a lapsable fund? No, it is not a lapsable fund. Okay. It was established through Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. No, this is also incorrect. 2023 Act, not 1885 Act. Only one of the statement is true. Right option is option right A. Only one of the statement is true. Okay, let me go forward. India is a cold desert in global biosphere reserves. Right? Please understand. This is very, very important. Ecology and environment. These are the kind of, right, let's say areas where the questions are asked in the preliminary examination. Preliminary examination. Now, what are the very important points associated with this article? UNESCO, right, basically publishes a list of biosphere reserves around the world. And I know most of you would have missed this article in today's Hindu newspaper because it is given in one corner. In a corner of a page. A lot of you will miss out this. UNESCO very recently in the 37th session of International Coordinating Council of the MAB, Man and Biosphere, which was conducted in the Paris, has announced a new list. It has announced a list of 26 biosphere reserves which will be added to the existing biosphere reserves. That is basically there is a program called as World Network of Biosphere Reserves, WNBR. In this particular WNBR list, to the existing number of biosphere reserves, 26 more have been added. Now, what are the important points associated with this? From India, now there is a 13th one, 13th Biosphere Reserve, which will be added into the list of WNBR. And totally with this particular number, that is with this addition in WNBR, now there will be 785 sites. There will be 785 sites which are spread across 142 countries. Total will be 785 which are spread across, right, 142 countries. Done? Okay. So 37 session, important point. Man and Biosphere Reserve, yes, important point. Now, which is this particular site which has been incorporated into the list from India? In India, please remember, there are totally 18 biosphere reserves. There are totally 18. Out of that, until now, 12 of the biosphere reserves were considered as a part of the WNBR list. Now, the 13th one also has been added, and that is, please remember, Cold Desert Biosphere Reserve. Cold Desert Biosphere Reserve. The Cold Desert Biosphere Reserve, which was recognized as a biosphere reserve back in 1998, has been introduced or has been incorporated into the list of WNBR. The Cold Biosphere Reserve or Cold Desert Biosphere Reserve covers entire, right, the Spiti Wildlife Division, right, adjoining areas of the Lahore Forest Division, including Barlacha Pass, Bharatpur, as well as Sarchu. All these points are important. Please make a note of. Please make a note of this. Apart from this, any other speciality about this new list? That is the addition to the existing 26, the Biosphere Reserve. Anything special? Six countries for the first time, right? Six countries for the first time have featured into the Biosphere Reserve list. What are these particular six countries? Angola, Djibouti, Equatorial Guinea, the Iceland, Oman, as well as Tajikistan. So these particular six countries until now did not have a single biosphere reserve in the WNBR. Now they have featured in the list for the first time. Please remember. And finally, please have a look at this. There's a small island country, Sao Tome and Principe. This has become the first state to have its entire territory, it's a small island by the way, to have its entire territory designated as a biosphere reserve. This can be a potential question asked in the preliminary examination. Prelims, by the way. So please make a note of all of these particular points. And when I say note, make a mental note. Anyways, the PPT is available to you. Revise, remember the names. Done? Okay. So associated with this, please solve this particular MCQ. Very quickly, solve the MCQ. Consider the following statements regarding WNBR. India has a total of 13 biosphere reserves covered under WNBR. Every member country of United Nations has at least one biosphere reserve listed under WNBR. India has a total of 18 biosphere reserves. How many of these particular statements are true? Do let me know. Ah, B. Okay. India has a total of 13 biosphere reserves covered under WNBR. Yes, this is correct. I know a lot of you will be using that AI, this AI. If you take the 13th one which has been announced yesterday, I'm sorry, the latest one which has been announced yesterday, 12 plus 1, 13. Okay. Every member country of United Nations has at least one biosphere reserve listed under WNBR. No, this is incorrect. There are, right, let's say 142 countries, right, from wherein more than 780 biosphere reserves have been listed. Not all the countries have a biosphere reserve under WNBR. India has a total of 18 biosphere reserve. Yes, India has a total of 18 biosphere reserve. So first one is correct, third one is correct, second one is incorrect. Right option for the question will be option B. Only two are right. Okay, let me go forward. One more article from Indian Express today. Standing committee, the government is considering a 2-year tenure for the House panels. What is the discussion that is happening here? What's the discussion that's happening? You must have heard of different department related standing committees. Please understand, whenever you talk about parliamentary committees, whenever you talk about parliamentary committees, essentially there are two types. Essentially, there are two types. One, permanent in nature, that is a department related standing committees. 24 department related standing committees are there. These will have a tenure of 1 year. These are permanent in nature. They will have a composition of 31 members, right? So both coming from the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha will have 10 members, Lok Sabha will have 21 members. And there are also, right, ad hoc committees. There are also ad hoc committees. For example, let's say a bill is introduced. A joint committee of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha can be set up, right? So ad hoc committees are also there, but these by nature, when you look at the name ad hoc, by nature these are established or these are set up, right, for certain time period, temporary nature, whenever there is a requirement, right? And these are not permanent in nature. These are established for certain reason, for certain purpose. They will finish that particular objective and they are closed. But on the other side, the departmental related standing committees, these are set up every year. These are permanent in nature. But the concern has been that the DRESCs, these have a tenure of 1 year. And because these have a tenure of 1 year, the argument is the members are saying this 1 year time period is not sufficient for us. We are set up, right, to study certain, let's say, the policies of finance ministry. We are set up to study certain schemes of, let's say, Ministry of Industries. We are set up to study, right, so let's say certain policy of Ministry of Environment, Forest, Ecology, etc. But that 1 year duration that is provided to us is not sufficient to complete the work that is allocated. And that is a precise reason now the government of India is considering to change the tenure of these particular standing committees or the parliamentary panels from rather than 1 year to 2 years. Rather than having a term of 1 year, can we change the term to 2 years? That is the discussion that is happening. It is something new that is being discussed. More will be there the coming days regarding this in the newspaper. Keep on updating with the information. But the concept associated with house panels is important, anyways. Okay, now please quickly solve this particular MCQ. Consider the following statements. There are 24 departmental related standing committees. All the parliamentary committees are permanent in nature. The departmental standing committees has a composition of 31 members with equal representation from both houses and chaired by the vice president. How many of the statements are true? This is not a difficult question, by the way, because I can see a lot of you answering, and in the chat section as well, lot of you already know the concept. Only the update is rather than 1 year term, they will be given a 2 year term. Right, so there are 24 departmental related standing committees. Yes. All the parliamentary committees are permanent in nature. No. The departmental standing committees has a composition of 31 with equal representation from both the houses. No. Like I said, Lok Sabha 21, Rajya Sabha 10. Right, only the first statement is true. Right option is option A here. Okay, next, right, small articles now. Delhi is facing an issue decreasing birth rate and the sex rate. The sex ratio in the Delhi region is falling, as well as the birth rate is also decreasing. But certain new points have been given. Right? The data you don't have to remember. Right? What is the data? Understand this. In 2021, right, the sex ratio was a 933 females per thousand, and it has a dip to 932, and later it has fallen to 929, and in 2023 it is a 922, right? So the sex ratio is falling. Is it a cause of concern? Yes. For every 1,000 male now there are 920 female, right, in this particular region. And not just this, even the birth rate, or the birth ratio is also declining. In 2016 the rate stood at 20.16 for every 1,000 people. Now it has fallen to 13.13, right? It has further fallen down, right, etc. So the birth rate has fallen and the sex ratio also has fallen. What are the reasons? One is right the common reason, right? Basically, not rational at all, but anyways, a common reason which I'm pretty sure all of you know. The preference for the boys, preference for the male child has kept on increasing. And that is one reason why the birth rate has declined and the, right, let's say, the sex ratio also has a decrease. But please understand, this particular decrease in the birth rate or let's say the sex ratio also points out to inefficient implementation of a policy. That is enforcement issue is there with the policy in India. What do you mean by enforcement issue? In India, right? Because there was a problem that was seen earlier by the government, that once the parents came to know the sex of the, right, let's say the child, the sex of the fetus, once they come to know that, the preference is right basically towards the male child. And if right, let's say the birth, I'm sorry, the sex of the child is found to be, let's say, female, there are a lot of cases where, right, let's say the abortions were conducted. So the government of India basically implemented a law, that is a PCPNDT, PCPNDT Act, Preconception, Prenatal Diagnostic Technology or Techniques Act of 1994. Okay, PCPNDT Act of 1994. Under PCPNDT Act, what the government basically says is, whenever the scanning, right, right, let's say the woman is pregnant, when the scanning is supposed to be conducted to find out, let's say, the status, the growth, the health of the, let's say, baby in the womb, the sex will not be revealed. The sex will not be revealed. And there is a long, right, let's say, paperwork which is conducted. You have to give assent to that. You will have to, right, basically no, ensure that no other relatives, right, of the, let's say, the woman except the husband is present in the room, etc. And the doctor, even if you ask, will not be revealing because it is illegal under the act. The doctor should not or must not reveal the sex of the baby. But basically understand this, under the PCPNDT Act, it also mandates that there has to be checks and balances every now and then. That is, in simple terms, right, the government officials will have to go to these hospitals where these kind of scanning is conducted. They will have to check the equipment. They will have to check the paperwork. They will have to ensure that the stakeholders in this, that is the hospitals, the technicians, the experts, etc., all of them are following the guidelines or the conditions under the PCPNDT Act. Now, because this is right, the monitoring activity is not being done efficiently or effectively, it has been seen that in multiple instances, the rules or the norms or the guidelines have been flouted by the stakeholder. And that is one of the reasons why the female or the sex ratio in this particular region is a declining. And there is one more economic reason as well. In addition to the problem associated with enforcement, there is one more issue, that is the economic issue. What is the economic issue? It should not be surprising to you to know that the cost of living in India is increasing. Correct? The cost of living, what was available, right, let's say 5 years ago, the same set of goods and services today to you is available at a much higher price, elevated price. So when the cost of living increases, the household, right, that is, let's say, a family, when the couple decide to have babies or the children, rather than having, let's say, 3 children, 4 children, etc., now because the cost of living has increased, they would prefer to have only 1 or 2 children. And because they decide to have a smaller family, inadvertently, or because of that kind of a mindset which is present in India, the mindset where basically the parents will believe that, again I say, parents will believe that in the old age it is only the son who will take care of them, which is not true in many of the cases. Right, beti to paraya dhan hoti hai, etc. Or right, it is only the son who will bring money. It is only the son who will carry on the legacy of this particular, let's say, kingdom as such. This kind of a patriarchal mindset or the wrong mindset that is there with the parents, that has actually led to decrease in the birth rate as well as the sex ratio in the city of Delhi. Right. So these are the two very important points. Please remember the enforcement issue as well as the economic issue. Right. Please mention this in social issues paper if at all the question is asked as social. Next article, bullet train. Right. The first bullet train section to be completed by 2027. Now, what is the importance of this article? Listen to me carefully. Back in the year 2017, the government of India launched or basically inaugurated this particular project of developing bullet train in India, the high speed rail project in India, which would be connecting two industrial towns or industrial cities. One is Mumbai and the second one is Ahmedabad. And it was assumed that once it was launched in 2017, by 2022, I repeat, by 2022, the project would become operational. This would reduce the time that is taken to travel between these two industrial cities. There would be multiple stops which would be developed along the road, which will help in easy mobility of the labor. Decongestion of the road network or road traffic would take place. Right, the mobility of the labor will also lead to clustering of industries along the network of the high speed rail. With that objective, the government of India launched the high speed rail project in India. So 2022 over, the government of India faced certain issues. Again, certain very valid issues. For example, pandemic. During pandemic, it was very difficult to develop any kind of infrastructure project for that matter, not just bullet train, any kind of infrastructure because of unavailability of raw material, labor for that matter, etc. So as a result of issues which arose because of the pandemic, right, because of land acquisition, because of right certain litigation, etc., the deadline for the project has been extended. Now the government of India simply says by 2029, I repeat, by 2029 this particular project would be completed and made operational. Right, so this is one more update. Please make a note of this. Next one, microfauna in Kaziranga. Right, the Kaziranga National Park. Important. Lot of times questions have been asked in the preliminary examination. Now, whenever you talk about Kaziranga National Park, most of the times the discussion will be surrounding the larger species in Kaziranga, the bigger species, animals which are present in Kaziranga, right, such as Indian rhinoceros, the Bengal tiger, Asian elephant, wild water buffalo, and eastern swamp deer. A lot of time the discussion is surrounding these kind of bigger species. But now a new survey has been conducted for smaller species, that is the microfauna. The microfauna survey has been conducted in the Kaziranga National Park. And this particular survey states that, or the study states that, there are 254 species of insects and 29 species of spiders. And what is the importance of this kind of a study that is conducted? Please understand, whenever you talk about any kind of a ecosystem or any kind of a reserves like this, yes, larger animals or larger sized animals which are present, no doubt you'll have to protect them. But at the same point of time, you'll also have to ensure that the micro animals or the microfauna which is present in these national parks, which will play a very pivotal role, important role in ensuring that the ecosystem functions, will also have to be protected. For example, sir, what is the importance of these kind of smaller species? How do you think the pollination happens in nature? Think of this. How do you think the pollination happens? You must have seen in multiple documentaries, assuming you watch documentaries or videos, right? How the pollination will happen because of the bees or the butterflies, etc. The argument is the larger species, yes, we have to protect them from the extinction. But at the same point of time, even the microfauna, which has a lot of diversity in the Kaziranga National Park, now we will have to implement certain policies in order to ensure even they are protected from the extinction. That is basically the inference that you need to draw from this kind of a study. Done? Right. So last article for today, just a factual information. Yuge Yugeen Bharat Museum. And there is an article associated with this. You don't have to be worried which company has been selected. right? For basically the development of the museum. It's an ongoing process, and moreover, I don't think so. UPSC is going to ask you. But the point that you need to remember is basically the Yuge Yugeen Museum. Once it developed, I repeat, once constructed or developed, this will be the largest museum in the world. This will be the largest museum in the world with 950 rooms spanning more than 1 lakh square meters. And what is the proposal of the government of India? The rich cultural history that we have had for more than 5,000 years now, we have had a huge cultural history. We need to develop a system where we will right store all of it. And we will keep right, let's say, the representations of all of it at one central place, and that is essentially the museum that is being constructed by the government of India. So Yuge Yugin Bharat Museum is being built at north and south blocks, that is in Delhi. Done. So again, some of you will say it is not Delhi, New Delhi. Okay, New Delhi. So these are the two very important points that you need to take away from this particular article. Beyond this, the bidding process, how many people right are participating, how many companies are participating, how many are Indian companies, how many are foreign companies. I don't think so. That is relevant for UPSC Civil Services examination. Done. Okay, so these are the different articles from the Hindu newspaper as well as the Indian Express that I wanted to cover in today's discussion. And before I take up your questions, if you're liking this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. And if you're yet to join our YouTube channel, kindly join it right now. While I was discussing, some of you are basically saying, sir, the link for the session, the platinum session tomorrow is not available. Please check in description. If not, give some time. I'll ask the backend team to check and add the description. Check at around, let's say 12:30. The links should be there if they are not there right now. Done. Okay, so if there are any questions, do let me know. Sir, I want to ask something apart from news regarding prep. What is the doubt, my dear? Uh, Kamika, please do let me know. Devendra Kumai, it will cost time also. Yes, these kind of, right, let's say the projects which are developed will take a lot of time. Overnight, you cannot expect. I'll use the old phrase or old adage. Rome was not built in a day. You can apply the same logic to this argument. Okay, how to write answer? My dear, please understand there is no uniform, let's say, there is no single formula, universal formula to basically understand how to write an answer. Please understand from one subject to another subject, the approach will change. From one question to another question, the approach will change. Okay. So, what you need to do is basically start writing answers, get them evaluated. Once you do that, essentially you will be able to learn the very good way to write answer. In fact, by the way, I'll just take 30 seconds now. Yesterday, I took a special class. I don't know how many of you attended. I'm pretty sure most of you did not attend it. I took a special class from 3 to 5 where I asked the students to read certain articles, come prepared to the class, special class available to everybody. Right? Basically, I'll give you question, take 10 minutes, write an answer, then I will give you the model answer. Compare, you'll understand where was the deficit in answer, right? At this exercise, if you keep on doing it periodically, right? This month, that is in the month of September, I've taken 2 sessions. In the month of October, again, there'll be 2 sessions for the same exercise. So, right, the only way you can learn answer writing is through practice. Practice as much as possible. Okay, done. That's it then. So that's it from my side. See you all in tomorrow's session. By the way, I'm taking sessions tomorrow, platinum session, evening 7 p.m. 7 p.m. It is free of cost to everybody, but please do register using the link. Again, I'm saying if the link is not there, it will be uploaded in some time. Please do check back the description after some time. That's it from my side. Take care. See you tomorrow. Have a great day.